My parents called me a disgrace at my own wedding, in front of 200 guests. My mother's voice echoed through the hall. "We expected so much better from you, Emily." My father wouldn't even look at me. The crime? I chose a simple, dignified wedding over a debt-inducing spectacle. No crystal chandeliers, no ice sculptures, no 10-tier cake imported from Paris. Just love, honesty, and a budget that wouldn't destroy us. But to my parents, that was humiliation. Relatives whispered behind floral arrangements, cousins smirked, aunts shook their heads in disappointment. My mother complained to every single guest about the cheap decorations. My father told his brother, loud enough for everyone to hear, "This wedding is an embarrassment to our family name." I stood there in my wedding dress, swallowing tears, praying the ceremony would just end. My husband-to-be, Daniel, noticed everything. Every insult, every cold stare, every cruel whisper. And during the reception dinner, when my mother made one more public comment about how disappointing everything was, Daniel stood up. He picked up the microphone. The room went silent. I thought he was going to make a toast, maybe thank everyone for coming. But what he said next, it didn't just silence the hall, it shattered every assumption my parents had about control, respect, and what it means to be family. By the time he finished speaking, my mother's face was pale. My father couldn't meet anyone's eyes, and the guests, they weren't whispering anymore. They were staring at my parents. What did Daniel say that turned my wedding from a disaster into the most unforgettable moment of my life? Let me take you back to where it all started.
Growing up, I was the perfect daughter. At least, that's what my parents told everyone. Straight A's, scholarship to a top university, corporate job by 23, obedient, quiet, controlled. My name is Emily Carter, and for 28 years, I lived my life according to someone else's script. My parents, Richard and Patricia Holloway, were obsessed with appearances. Country club memberships, designer clothes, the right cars, the right friends, the right everything. Our family wasn't wealthy. We were middle class pretending to be upper class. And that pretending, it came with a price. My father worked himself into stress-induced health problems to maintain the lifestyle. My mother maxed out credit cards on handbags she'd show off once, then hide in the closet. But the facade was everything. When my cousin Sophia got married at 25, her wedding cost $80,000. Ice sculptures, live band, destination rehearsal dinner, fireworks. My parents talked about it for months. "That's how you honor your family," my mother said. My father nodded. "When it's your turn, Emily, we'll make sure everyone remembers it." I didn't want that. Even back then, I knew the truth. Sophia's parents took out a second mortgage to pay for that wedding. They were still paying it off 3 years later. But to my parents, the spectacle was worth the sacrifice. Fast forward to when I met Daniel. Daniel Reed wasn't what my parents expected. He was a high school teacher, drove a practical sedan, lived in a modest apartment. But he was kind, patient, genuine. He made me laugh. He listened. He saw me, not the perfect daughter performance. When I brought him home for the first time, my mother's smile was tight. "A teacher?" she said, like it was a disease. "Well, that's nice." My father asked about his career trajectory and investment portfolio. Daniel answered honestly. He loved teaching, he was saving responsibly, he had no interest in flashy displays of wealth. The disappointment in my parents' eyes was immediate, but I didn't care. For the first time in my life, I was happy. When Daniel proposed, simple ring, heartfelt speech, just the two of us on a hiking trail, I cried tears of pure joy. But when I told my parents, my mother's first question wasn't, "Congratulations," it was, "How big is the diamond?" When I showed her the modest, beautiful ring Daniel had chosen, she actually winced. "Ugh, Emily," she sighed. "I hope the wedding makes up for this." That's when the pressure started. My parents had a vision: luxury venue, 300 plus guests, designer dress, elaborate floral arrangements. They handed me a binder filled with photos, budgets, and expectations. The estimated cost? $95,000. I stared at the number in disbelief. "We can't afford this," I said. My father waved dismissively. "We'll figure it out. This is a once-in-a-lifetime event." "We'll take out a loan," my mother added. "It's an investment in our family's reputation." I looked at Daniel, he looked at me, and we both knew we couldn't do this. Not the debt, not the stress, not the performance. So we made a decision that would change everything. We planned a wedding our way. Simple, honest, debt-free. And that decision, it ignited a war. What would you do if your parents demanded you go into debt for their approval? Comment below. When I told my parents we were planning a modest wedding, you'd think I announced I was joining a cult. My mother's face went white. "Modest?" she repeated, like I'd spoken in another language. "Yes," I said firmly. "Daniel and I want something meaningful, something we can afford without debt." My father slammed his hand on the table. "This is unacceptable, Emily." "We've already told our friends about this wedding," my mother added, voice shaking. "They're expecting something spectacular." "Then adjust their expectations," Daniel said calmly. Big mistake. My father turned on him. "This is a family discussion." "I'm going to be family," Daniel replied evenly, "and I won't let Emily start our marriage drowning in debt to impress people who don't matter." The room went nuclear. My mother stood up, tears in her eyes. Theatrical tears, the kind she'd perfected over decades. "You're embarrassing us," she whispered, "after everything we've done for you." There it was, the guilt card, the weapon my parents had used my entire life. "After everything we've done for you." As if love was a transaction, as if their sacrifices came with interest. "I'm grateful for everything," I said, trying to stay calm, "but this is my wedding, mine and Daniel's." My father's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "If you go through with this budget wedding, don't expect us to be happy about it." "We'll be there," my mother added coldly, "but everyone will know we had nothing to do with the planning." It was an ultimatum disguised as attendance. "Do what we want, or we'll punish you publicly." I looked at Daniel. His jaw was tight, but he squeezed my hand. "We're doing this our way," I said quietly. My mother gasped like I'd stabbed her. My father stood up and walked out without another word. The next 3 months were psychological warfare. My mother called me daily, sometimes multiple times, with passive-aggressive comments. "Cousin Jennifer is having such a beautiful wedding, 500 guests. You should see the invitations." "Mrs. Patterson asked about your venue. I was too embarrassed to tell her." "Your father's blood pressure is up again, the stress, you know." My father stopped talking to me entirely. When I called, he'd hand the phone to my mother. When I visited, he'd leave the room. Silent treatment, another classic control tactic. My aunts and uncles got involved too. Suddenly, I was receiving concerned calls. "Emily, honey, are you sure about this? Your parents are just trying to help. Don't you want your day to be special? What will people think?" What will people think? The Holloway family motto. Meanwhile, Daniel and I pressed forward. We found a beautiful, intimate venue, a garden hall with natural light and simple elegance. We hired a small but talented catering team. We chose wildflowers over elaborate arrangements. We cut the guest list to 200, only people who genuinely loved us. Total cost? $15,000. Fully paid, no debt, no financial stress. It was everything we wanted, but to my parents, it was a declaration of war. 2 weeks before the wedding, my mother left me a voicemail. Her voice was ice. I hope you're proud of yourself, Emily. This wedding is going to be a disgrace, and everyone will know it's your doing. I saved that voicemail because I knew deep down that this wedding wasn't going to be simple or peaceful. My parents were going to make sure of it, and I had no idea just how far they'd go. Have your parents ever tried to control a major life decision? You're not alone. Keep watching.
The sabotage started small. So small, I almost didn't notice it first. 3 weeks before the wedding, my mother accidentally told several relatives the wrong date. "Oh, I must have gotten confused," she said when I confronted her. But her smile didn't reach her eyes. Then my father forgot to send out half the invitations he'd promised to mail. 20 guests never received theirs. When I discovered it 2 days before the RSVP deadline, he shrugged. "I've been busy, Emily, stressed. You know how weddings affect people." The guilt trip, again. My mother started a whisper campaign among extended family. Aunts I barely spoke to suddenly called with concerns. "Your mother says you're struggling financially. Is Daniel pressuring you into a cheap wedding? We heard the venue isn't even air-conditioned. Is that true? Patricia mentioned you might be pregnant. Is that why the rush and small budget?" Lies, insinuations, manipulations, all designed to paint me as either a victim or a disappointment. Daniel wanted to confront them. "They're sabotaging us, Emily. This is toxic." "I know," I whispered, "but if we react, they'll play the victim. We just need to get through the wedding." I thought that was the worst of it. I was wrong. 1 week before the wedding, the florist called. "Hi, Emily, I just wanted to confirm the cancellation." My heart stopped. "What cancellation?" Silence. "Your mother called yesterday and said you were going in a different direction. She canceled the entire order." My hands shook as I dialed my mother. She answered on the 4th ring, voice syrupy sweet. "Hello, darling. You canceled my flowers." Pause. "I was trying to help, Emily. Those wildflowers were so plain. I found a much better florist." "You had no right. I'm your mother. I have every right to make sure my daughter's wedding isn't an embarrassment." I hung up. Daniel held me while I cried angry, frustrated tears. We called the florist back, begged them to reinstate the order, and paid a rush fee we hadn't budgeted for. But the damage was done. My trust was shattered, and the anxiety, it was eating me alive. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. Every phone call felt like another disaster waiting to happen. Finally, Daniel sat me down 2 days before the wedding. "Emily, we can elope right now, just us. We don't need this stress." I wanted to say yes. God, I wanted to. But something stubborn inside me refused to give my parents that satisfaction. "No," I said. "We planned this wedding with love and honesty. I'm not letting them take that from us." Daniel kissed my forehead. Then we faced them together. The morning of the wedding, I was a bundle of nerves. My bridesmaids, my real friends, the ones who'd supported me through everything, helped me get ready. But when my mother arrived to help, the energy shifted. She walked in, looked around the bridal suite, and sighed dramatically. "Well, this is quaint." My maid of honor, Jessica, shot me a warning look. My mother circled me like a shark. "That dress is lovely, Emily." Understated, but lovely. Understated, her favorite insult disguised as a compliment. "You could have borrowed my pearls. These look costume." They were vintage pieces from Daniel's grandmother. Priceless, sentimental, perfect. But to my mother, anything that wasn't hers was inferior. I didn't respond. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. But inside, I was screaming. Just get through today. Just get through today. I had no idea that before the night was over, my mother would say something so cruel that Daniel would have no choice but to respond. And when he did, everything changed. The ceremony was supposed to be the easy part. Walk down the aisle, say our vows, seal it with a kiss. Simple, beautiful, ours. But nothing about that day would be simple. The venue looked stunning. Sunlight poured through tall windows.
Wildflowers lined the aisle and mason jars, white chairs arranged in intimate rows. It was everything Daniel and I had dreamed of. But my parents, they looked like they were attending a funeral. My mother wore black, to a wedding. When I saw her, my stomach dropped. "Mom, why are you wearing black?" She looked at me with cold eyes. "It's slimming, and frankly, Emily, I'm in mourning for the wedding you could have had." My father stood beside her, silent as a statue, face unreadable. Guests started arriving, and I watched my mother's performance begin. She greeted people with a pained smile. "Yes, it's intimate." Emily wanted something small. "Intimate," said like a diagnosis. We offered to help, of course, but she insisted on doing it her way. Her way, like I was a rebellious teenager. I saw relatives exchange glances. Some looked sympathetic toward me. Others looked disappointed. My father stood near the entrance, hands in pockets, barely acknowledging guests. When Daniel's parents arrived, warm, smiling, genuinely happy, the contrast was jarring. Daniel's mother hugged me tight. "Emily, this is beautiful. You should be so proud." I almost cried right there. The ceremony began. I walked down the aisle alone. My choice, a symbol of independence, while a string quartet played softly. Daniel's face when he saw me, pure love, tears in his eyes, smile that reached his soul. That look made everything worth it. But as I passed my parents' row, I saw them. My mother's face was pinched, lips pressed into a thin line. My father stared straight ahead, refusing to meet my eyes. No smiles, no tears of joy, nothing. It felt like a knife in my chest. But I kept walking, toward Daniel, toward our future. The officiant spoke about love, partnership, and choosing each other every day. Daniel and I exchanged personal vows. His voice shook with emotion as he promised to always choose me, to build a life based on honesty, not pretense. I promised to stand by him, to create a home built on love, not debt. Some guests cried. Daniel's mother sobbed happily. My mother checked her phone. When the officiant said, "You may kiss the bride," Daniel pulled me close and kissed me like we were the only two people in the world. Guests applauded, but as we walked back down the aisle, hand in hand, I caught my mother whispering to my Aunt Linda. My aunt's eyes widened. She shook her head. My mother nodded insistently, lips moving rapidly, spreading poison, even now. The cocktail hour was worse. My parents stood in a corner, separate from everyone else, looking miserable. When guests approached to congratulate them, my mother's responses were rehearsed and cold. "Thank you. Yes, it's a very simple affair. We're happy for Emily, of course, though we'd hoped for something more traditional. Daniel is a lovely man, a teacher, very noble." Teacher, the way she said it, like she was saying unemployed. Daniel's father noticed. "Your parents seem unhappy," he said carefully. "They are," Daniel replied, jaw tight. "But that's their choice." I squeezed his hand. "Let's just enjoy our day," I whispered. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. My parents weren't going to let this day end without making a statement. And during the reception, in front of every single guest, they would make their cruelest move yet. Would you stay silent or speak up? Let us know below. The reception dinner began beautifully. Soft music, warm lighting, tables decorated simply but elegantly. Guests were laughing, eating, genuinely enjoying themselves. Daniel and I sat at the head table, finally able to relax. "We did it," I whispered to him. He kissed my temple. We did. But I felt my mother's eyes on me from across the room, cold, calculating. She sat at a table with my father and several of their closest friends, people they desperately wanted to impress, and I could see her gears turning. The first strike came during appetizers. My mother stood up,
uninvited, and clinked her glass. The room quieted. "I just wanted to say a few words," she began, voice sugary. My stomach dropped. Daniel's hand found mine under the table. "Emily is my daughter, and of course I love her very much." Pause for effect. "We had such dreams for this day, grand dreams." Her smile was poison. "But Emily has always been independent, strong-willed. She wanted to do things her way." Guests shifted uncomfortably. "And that's admirable, truly, even if it means," she gestured around the room, "scaling back." Scaling back. Like our wedding was a budget cut, not a choice. "But we support her, of course we do, even when it's difficult." She sat down to scattered, awkward applause. I felt humiliated, exposed. Jessica, my maid of honor, leaned over. "What is wrong with her?" I shook my head, unable to speak. But it wasn't over. During the main course, my father made his move. He didn't stand, didn't make a speech. He just spoke loudly, loud enough for half the room to hear, to his friend Gregory. "You know, Greg, weddings used to mean something. Families used to take pride in them. Now it's all about cutting corners, being practical." He said the word like it tasted bad. "Different times, Richard," Gregory mumbled. My father shook his head. "Different priorities, maybe. When I got married, I made sure Patricia had the wedding she deserved. That's what a man does." The implication was clear. Daniel wasn't providing for me properly. Our wedding was substandard. I was settling. I saw Daniel's knuckles go white around his fork. "Don't," I whispered. "Please, they're not worth it." He took a deep breath, nodded, but his eyes were burning. Then came the final blow. My mother stood again. No glass clinking this time, no announcement. She just started walking around to different tables, stopping to chat with guests. And at each table, I watched her performance. The sad smile, the resigned shrug, the whispered conversations. One of Daniel's cousins pulled out her phone and showed me something. My mother was at their table, and Daniel's cousin had recorded audio. My mother's voice, clear as day. "We offered to help financially, of course, but Emily refused. Pride, I suppose. Or maybe Daniel's influence. He's a sweet man, but he doesn't understand how these things work in families like ours." Families like ours. As if we were royalty, as if Daniel was beneath us. I felt tears stinging my eyes, tears of rage, not sadness. Jessica grabbed my hand. "Emily, you don't have to take this." "What can I do? Make a scene? That's what she wants." Daniel stood up abruptly. My heart stopped. "Daniel?" He looked at me, eyes soft but determined. "Trust me." And before I could stop him, he walked toward the microphone at the front of the room. The DJ handed it to him, confused. The room fell silent. Every eye turned to my husband, and what he said next would echo for years. Daniel stood at the microphone, perfectly composed. His teacher training kicked in, commanding presence, clear voice, steady eye contact. My heart pounded in my chest. "Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for being here." Polite smiles, guests nodded. My mother's face was confused, my father's suspicious. "I want to take a moment to talk about today, about this wedding, about what it represents." He turned slightly, looking at me with so much love it nearly broke me. "When Emily and I started planning this day, we had a choice to make." Pause. Perfect timing. We could spend money we didn't have, go into debt, put on a show. My mother's face went pale. Or we could build something real, something honest, something that reflected our actual values. Guests were leaning forward now, listening intently. We chose honesty. He let that word hang in the air. This wedding cost $15,000. We paid for it ourselves, in full, without a single dollar of debt. Someone gasped. I think it was my Aunt Linda. Some people might look at this room and see simplicity. I see integrity. Daniel's voice grew stronger. Some might see wildflowers in mason jars and think budget. I see beauty without pretense. My mother started to stand, but my father pulled her back down. Some might see a guest list of 200 and think small. I see a room filled only with people who genuinely love us. Guests looked around at each other. Several nodded. Here's what I've learned about weddings. They reveal priorities. He turned to face my parents' table directly. The boldness of it made me gasp. Some people believe a wedding is a performance, a display of wealth, a way to impress people who ultimately don't matter. My mother's face was bright red. Others believe a wedding is a celebration of love, a commitment made in front of people who will actually support that marriage when things get hard. The room was absolutely silent. Emily's parents have expressed disappointment with our choices today. Several guests shifted uncomfortably. They've called it embarrassing, shameful, a disgrace. He said those words like they tasted bitter. But let me tell you what I see when I look at my wife. His voice softened and tears filled my eyes. I see a woman who refused to start our marriage in debt, who chose peace over performance, who had the courage to disappoint people rather than destroy our financial future. Someone started clapping, Daniel's uncle, but Daniel held up a hand. I see a woman who was told her entire life that her worth was tied to appearances, and she still chose authenticity. My mother was crying now, angry tears. My father stared at the table. This wedding was paid for with honesty, not credit cards, with love, not loans, with self-respect, not social pressure. Daniel's eyes swept the room. And if that's embarrassing to anyone here, then maybe they need to examine their own values. The silence was deafening. Then, slowly, applause started. One person, then another, then another. Within seconds, half the room was clapping. Daniel's parents were standing, applauding openly. My friends were cheering. Even some of my relatives, the ones who'd whispered earlier, were clapping, looking ashamed. My parents sat frozen, surrounded by approval for everything they'd criticized. Daniel walked back to me, handed the microphone to the DJ, and took my face in his hands. "I love you," he whispered, "and I'm proud of you." I kissed him, tears streaming down my face. But this wasn't over, not by a long shot, because my mother wasn't about to let this humiliation stand. After Daniel's speech, the reception transformed. Guests who'd been whispering sympathetically about my parents suddenly avoided them. People came up to us in waves, praising our courage, our authenticity. "This is the most real wedding I've been to in years," Daniel's aunt said, hugging me tight. One of my father's colleagues pulled Daniel aside. "Son, that took guts, respect." Even my cousin Jennifer, the one with the $80,000 wedding, approached me quietly. "Emily, I wish I'd done what you did. We're still drowning in payments." Her eyes were genuine, sad. "My marriage started with a fight about money. Yours started with clarity." I hugged her. But across the room, my parents were imploding. My mother's face was blotchy and red. She kept dabbing at her eyes with a napkin, but she wasn't crying from sadness. It was rage, pure, unfiltered rage. My father sat rigidly, speaking to no one, staring at nothing. They'd been exposed, not by cruelty, not by insults, by truth. And truth is the one weapon people like my parents can't defend against. Around 9 p.m., my mother stood abruptly, grabbed her purse, and stormed toward the exit. My father followed without a word. No goodbye, no congratulations, no farewell. They just left at my wedding. Jessica appeared at my side. "Let them go," she said firmly. "You don't need that energy here." She was right, but it still hurt. Because despite everything, despite the manipulation, the sabotage, the cruelty, they were still my parents.
and some part of me had hoped that today, of all days, they'd choose love over pride. They didn't. The rest of the reception was beautiful. We danced, we laughed, we celebrated with people who genuinely loved us. Daniel's father gave a toast that made everyone cry happy tears. To Emily and Daniel, two people who understand that a marriage isn't built on how you start, but on every choice you make afterward. Today, you chose wisely. When the night ended, Daniel and I stood outside the venue, watching guests leave. Cars drove past, people waving, shouting congratulations. It was everything I'd wanted. But my phone buzzed. A text from my mother. "I hope you're happy. You humiliated us in front of everyone we know. Don't expect us to forget this." Daniel saw my face change. "What is it?" I showed him the text. He took the phone, read it, then handed it back. "Block her number tonight, right now." "Daniel." "Emily, she's not going to stop. This is who they are. You set a boundary and they're punishing you for it." I stared at the message. He was right. This wasn't going to end with an apology. It wasn't going to end with understanding. My parents weren't going to wake up tomorrow and realize they were wrong. They were going to double down. "What if I never hear from them again?" I whispered. Daniel pulled me close. "Then you'll have peace, finally." I took a deep breath, and I blocked my mother's number, then my father's. It felt like cutting a cord I'd been tethered to my entire life. Terrifying, liberating, necessary. We drove to our hotel that night in silence. Not uncomfortable silence, reflective silence. When we got to the room, Daniel turned to me. "No regrets?" I thought about the question, about the wedding, about the speech, about the boundary. "No regrets," I said firmly. He smiled. "Good, because we just started the rest of our lives on our own terms." We fell asleep that night holding each other, married, happy, free. But the war with my parents, it was just beginning. Comment truth if you think Daniel's speech was necessary. The first week after the wedding was blissful. Honeymoon phase, literally. We'd taken a modest trip to a cabin in the mountains, no extravagant overseas vacation, just us, nature, and peace. No debt, no stress, just love. But when we returned home, reality hit. My phone had 17 missed calls from extended family, none from my parents. The calls were from aunts, uncles, cousins, everyone except the two people I'd expected to hear from. I listened to the voicemails. Aunt Linda, "Emily, honey, your mother is devastated. Maybe you should reach out?" Uncle Tom, "This family feud needs to end. You know how your parents are. Just apologize and move on." Cousin Rachel, "I don't know what happened, but your mom is telling everyone Daniel disrespected you at your wedding. Is that true?" My stomach twisted. They were already rewriting history. Daniel's speech, a calm, truthful boundary, was being painted as an attack. My choice to have a debt-free wedding was being framed as rebellion, and I was being positioned as the villain. "They're building a narrative," Daniel said, reading over my shoulder. "What do I do?" "Nothing. Let them tell their version. The people who were there know the truth." But it wasn't that simple, because my parents weren't just telling their side. They were recruiting. Over the next few weeks, family members I barely spoke to started reaching out, all with the same message. "You need to make this right. Your parents are hurting. Family is forever, Emily. Pride isn't worth losing them. Daniel should apologize for embarrassing them." Wait, Daniel should apologize? For telling the truth? For defending our choices? I called my cousin Melissa, one of the few family members I trusted. "What is happening, Mel? Why is everyone acting like I'm the problem?" She sighed heavily. "Your mom is calling everyone. She's crying, saying you cut her out of your life, that Daniel manipulated you, that the wedding was a deliberate insult." My blood ran cold. That's not what happened. I know that, Mel. I was there. But people who weren't there, they're hearing her version on repeat.
This was psychological warfare. My mother knew that if she told her story loudly and often enough, people would believe it, especially people who hadn't witnessed the actual events. Meanwhile, my father was playing the wounded patriarch. He won't even talk about it, Melissa continued, just says his daughter chose a man over her family and walks away. It's very dramatic. Of course it was. Then came the social media campaign. My mother started posting vague, martyr-like statuses. Sometimes you give everything to your children and they still choose to break your heart, praying for healing. Family used to mean something. Now it's just a word. Comments flooded in from her friends. "Stay strong, Patricia. Children today have no respect. I'm so sorry you're going through this." She never mentioned me by name. Didn't have to. Everyone knew. I wanted to respond, to defend myself, to tell the truth publicly. "Don't," Daniel said firmly. That's what she wants, a public fight she can screenshot and share as proof you're cruel. He was right. But watching the lies spread, watching my family slowly turn against me, was agony. Then my mother made her boldest move yet. She sent a letter. Not a text, not an email, a handwritten letter delivered to our apartment. Inside was 2 pages of elegant cursive. Accusations, guilt trips, manipulation disguised as love. The final line made my hands shake. "Until Daniel apologizes and you acknowledge what you've done to this family, we have no daughter." We have no daughter. She disowned me, in writing, because I chose financial responsibility over performative debt. I sat on the couch, letter in hand, unable to move. Daniel read it over my shoulder, then quietly took it from my hands and tore it in half. "You don't need their approval, Emily. You never did." But grief is complicated. Even when you know someone is toxic, losing them still hurts.
The weeks after the letter were the hardest. Not because I regretted my choices, but because grief isn't logical. I grieved the parents I wished I had, the ones who would have celebrated our wedding with joy, the ones who would have prioritized my happiness over their image, the ones who would have chosen love over control. Those parents didn't exist. They never had. But letting go of the fantasy, that was brutal. Daniel held me through late-night crying sessions. "I keep thinking, what if I'd just done the big wedding?" I sobbed one night. "Would they still love me?" Daniel tilted my face up to look at him. "Emily, they never loved you unconditionally. They loved the version of you that obeyed. That's not real love." Deep down, I knew he was right. But knowing something intellectually and accepting it emotionally are 2 different battles. I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Rivera specialized in family trauma and narcissistic relationships. In our 3rd session, she said something that changed my perspective. "Emily, you're mourning the death of a relationship that was never healthy to begin with. That's valid, but you're also free now, free to build the life you want." Free. The word felt foreign. I'd spent 28 years in an invisible cage, performing for approval, and now the cage door was open. It was terrifying and exhilarating. I started setting boundaries everywhere. When Aunt Linda called again, pushing me to reconcile, I said clearly, "I'm not discussing this anymore. My decision is final." She sputtered, "But Emily—" "I love you, Aunt Linda, but this topic is closed. If you can't respect that, we can't talk right now." I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I felt powerful. When cousin Rachel sent a long text about family forgiveness, I responded, "Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting abuse. I'm at peace with my choices." Some family members respected the boundary. Others didn't. Those who didn't, I distanced myself from them.
It was painful, but necessary. Daniel and I started building our own life. We hosted dinners with our chosen family, friends, Daniel's relatives, coworkers who'd become close. We traveled modestly but meaningfully. We invested in experiences, not appearances. And slowly, I realized something profound. I was happy, genuinely, deeply happy. No debt hanging over us, no one to perform for, no walking on eggshells, just peace. 6 months after the wedding, I ran into my mother at the grocery store. It was unavoidable. Same aisle, opposite ends. Our eyes met. For a moment, I saw something flicker across her face. Surprise? Regret? Longing? But then her expression hardened. She turned her cart around and walked away without a word. It stung, I won't lie, but I didn't chase her. I didn't call out or try to force a conversation. I let her go because I'd learned something crucial. You cannot force people to see their own toxicity. You can only remove yourself from it. That night, I told Daniel about the encounter. "How do you feel?" he asked. I thought about it. Sad, but also okay. I've built a life I'm proud of, and she's not in it. He kissed my forehead. "You're stronger than you know." But the story doesn't end there, because a year after the wedding, something unexpected happened, something that would test everything I'd built. My father had a heart attack, and suddenly, the family that had shunned me was calling again, demanding I return, demanding I do the right thing. What would you do in that situation?
The call came at 2 a.m. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, jerking me awake. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello? Emily, it's Aunt Linda." Her voice was frantic. "It's your father. He's had a heart attack. He's in the ICU." My blood ran cold. "Is he? He's stable, but it was serious. Your mother is asking for you." My mother was asking for me? The woman who disowned me in writing? "Linda, Please, Emily, whatever happened between you, he's your father. You need to come." The guilt hit immediately. Programmed, automatic, devastating. Daniel sat up beside me. "What's wrong?" I told him. His face was unreadable. "What do you want to do?" What did I want to do? I wanted to scream, to cry, to feel anything other than this confusing mix of grief and anger and obligation. I don't know. Daniel took my hand. "Listen to me carefully. If you go, I'm with you, but you don't owe them anything, not after what they did." "He's my father, Daniel." "I know, and if you want to see him, we'll go, but don't go out of guilt. Go because you need to." I got dressed in a daze. We drove to the hospital in silence. The ICU waiting room was full of family. My mother sat in the center, surrounded by concerned relatives, dabbing at her eyes. When I walked in, the room went quiet. All eyes turned to me. My mother looked up. For a split second, I saw genuine vulnerability in her eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by cold assessment. "You came," she said flatly. "How is he?" I asked, ignoring the tone. "Critical but stable. They're running more tests." Uncle Tom stood. "Emily, your mother needs support right now. This isn't the time for family drama." Family drama. As if I'd caused this. Daniel's hand tightened around mine. "We're here for my father-in-law, not for drama." Uncle Tom bristled. "Maybe if you hadn't—" "Tom, enough," Aunt Linda interrupted. "Not now." A nurse appeared. "Immediate family can see him, 2 at a time." My mother stood immediately. "I'll go first." She looked at me, expectant, waiting for me to volunteer, to prove my devotion. "I'll wait," I said quietly. Her face hardened. "Of course." She went in with my aunt instead. I sat down, Daniel beside me, and waited. The room was suffocating with unspoken judgment, whispered conversations, pointed looks.
I heard fragments. Finally decides to show up. After everything Patricia's been through. That husband of hers? Daniel leaned close. We can leave. You don't have to endure this. I want to see him, I whispered. Once, then we'll go. 40 minutes later, my mother emerged. Her eyes were red, but her expression was controlled. He's asking for you, she said, voice tight. I stood, heart pounding. Alone, she added, glancing at Daniel. Daniel looked at me. I nodded. I walked into the ICU room. My father lay in the hospital bed, tubes and monitors everywhere. He looked small, fragile, old, nothing like the intimidating man who'd controlled my life for decades. His eyes opened when I approached. Emily. His voice was weak. Dad. My throat was tight. I'm sorry. I froze. Did he just... I'm sorry, he repeated, tears sliding down his face. About the wedding, about everything. I was wrong. The words I'd waited my entire life to hear, and I didn't know how to respond because part of me wanted to forgive everything, and part of me knew this might just be fear talking. What would you do? Forgive immediately or wait?
I stood beside my father's hospital bed, his apology hanging in the air between us. You were wrong about what, Dad? He closed his eyes. The wedding. We were too harsh. Too harsh. Interesting choice of words. Not cruel, not controlling, not abusive. Too harsh. Like he'd just been a little too strict with a curfew. What changed? I asked carefully. He opened his eyes, confused. What? You disowned me 6 months ago. Mom wrote that you had no daughter. What changed between then and now? He looked uncomfortable. I almost died, Emily. That changes your perspective. Does it change Mom's perspective? Silence. She's processing. This has been hard on her. There it was. Even now, at his most vulnerable, he was protecting her, making excuses for her cruelty. Dad, I appreciate the apology. I really do. But I need to know, are you sorry for how you treated me, or just sorry that I'm not in your life anymore? He blinked, not understanding the distinction. There's a difference? And that told me everything. He wasn't sorry for the manipulation, the sabotage, the public humiliation. He was sorry for the consequences, sorry that his actions had driven me away, but not sorry enough to acknowledge the depth of the harm. I love you, Dad, I said softly, but love isn't enough. You and Mom spent years making me feel like I was only valuable if I obeyed. That's not healthy. We wanted the best for you. You wanted what looked best for you. He flinched. My wedding wasn't about embarrassing you. It was about starting my marriage without debt, without pretense, without performing for people who don't matter. Those people do matter. To you, not to me. Silence stretched between us. Daniel is a good man, I said. He stood up for me when no one else would. He defended our choices when you were tearing them down. And you and Mom want him to apologize? My father looked away. You want me to come back into your life? I asked. Here are my terms. You and Mom go to therapy. You work on understanding why your behavior was harmful. And you apologize, really apologize to Daniel. His face hardened slightly. Therapy? Yes, professional help. Because this pattern, the control, the guilt trips, the conditional love, it's been going on my whole life, and it needs to stop. Emily, we're not perfect, but we're your parents. And I'm your daughter. That should mean unconditional love. But you've made your love conditional on obedience. I took a breath. I forgive you, Dad, for my own peace. But forgiveness doesn't mean going back to how things were.
If you and Mom want a relationship with me, it has to be different, healthier, with boundaries." Tears slid down his face. "I don't know if she'll agree to that." "Then she's choosing pride over her daughter again." I leaned down and kissed his forehead. "Get better, Dad, and think about what I said." I walked out of the ICU. The waiting room fell silent when I emerged. My mother stood. "Well?" "He apologized. We talked. That's between him and me." Her eyes narrowed. "Are you coming back to the family?" The family. Like I'd been exiled from a kingdom. "I never left. You pushed me out. And if you want me back, there are conditions." I told her the same thing I'd told my father. Therapy, real apologies, boundaries. Her face went through a journey. Shock, anger, indignation. "You're giving us ultimatums?" "I'm setting boundaries. There's a difference. After everything we've done for you?" "You keep saying that, but love isn't supposed to be a debt." I took Daniel's hand. "We're leaving. If you decide you want a real relationship, you know how to reach me." And we walked out, together.
2 years have passed since that wedding. My father recovered. He's doing well, physically. My parents never went to therapy. They never gave Daniel a real apology. But 6 months after the hospital visit, they reached out. Not with changed behavior, but with small gestures. A birthday card, a short text, an invitation to coffee. We're rebuilding, slowly, carefully, with firm boundaries. They don't get to comment on our finances, our life choices, our marriage. And if they cross a line, we step back. It's not perfect. Some days it's painful, but it's real. And that's more than we had before. Daniel and I just celebrated our 2nd anniversary. Still debt-free, still building a life based on our values. We bought a small house last year, modest but ours. We're saving for the future, not drowning in past performances. And we're happy, genuinely happy. The lesson I learned through all of this: your worth isn't determined by other people's approval. Not your parents, not society's, nobody's. You are allowed to choose peace over performance. You are allowed to set boundaries, even with family. You are allowed to build a life that reflects your values, not someone else's. And the people who truly love you, they'll respect that. The ones who don't, they were never loving you. They were loving their control over you. Daniel's speech at our wedding didn't just silence a room, it changed the trajectory of our entire lives. Because sometimes the most loving thing you can do is speak the truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it costs you relationships. Truth is freedom, and freedom, that's where real life begins. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button. Share your own story in the comments. You're not alone. And remember, your life, your rules. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.